bunch of Materials Pledge working group folks in the audience, which is great. So we will record this session and we will put it up on our YouTube channel. So you can always go back and rewatch or get more details that you might have missed the first time around. But let's go ahead and get started. We're here to talk about Materials Pledge for reporting year 2025 and talk about the firm and project level reporting questions. So let's get started. Next. So here's our agenda. We'll do some introductions and we will jump into a little bit of history and context for the pledge itself. We will go through where to find reporting resources and look at what a couple of resources actually look like. Then I will do a fairly short open water demonstration just for folks who may not have been in the platform in the past. And then we will spend some time with Q&A, and you'll be able to put questions in the chat, raise your hand and unmute, whatever method you would like. Next. All right. So Materials Pledge timing has already started since we are in February, and it will run until April 30th at midnight when the open water platform will sort of lock people out automatically. And did want to note this is a little bit shorter than last year's cycle, but we are hoping that 3 months is enough, which also sort of maps with the 2030 commitment cycle as well. My name is Melanie DeCola. I'm the director of AIA's two Climate Action Pledge programs, and I'm joined by Andrew. If you want to say hey to everybody.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here.
Andrew also manages the Materials Pledge inbox, so that's the materials@aia.org email address. And to note, this is the very first open office for this cycle. We will have 2 more coming up, one on March 11th on product specifically, and we'll spend a lot of time going into product questions on the spreadsheet. And then the last session will be an open office where you can come and join. We can help you troubleshoot, ask us questions, and we can assist. And we will also put those links in the chat as we go along as well. Next. All right, signatory requirements and eligibility. Just want to cover some of this basic information. If you are reporting, you should be a firm signatory. You can sign up and immediately begin reporting. The materials inbox will get a notification, so we can send you the correct links for reporting if that's the case. Most folks will already have signed up as a signatory, and we are still requiring firm level metrics, but we are not yet requiring project level or product level. And officially, you should have a materials action plan. We strongly recommend that you at least be working on that, and we have some guidance, which I'll share a little bit later. Some things to note on the eligibility side. You're only reporting a project once in the kind of project's life cycle, and that's when you get to construction documentation level phase of your project. And then reporting links can be shared via the collaborator function. I can show you where that is. And please coordinate within your firm to submit one submission for each of these levels. So the firm is one level and the project and product is another level, and I can show you that as well, just to make it a little bit easier on our end for data analysis, and so we don't get confused. Next. All right, little background here. Some of you may have seen this timeline before. I did a little bit of a cleanup because it was driving me nuts that the years weren't spaced equally. But anyway, same information. Just wanted to show that AIA and Mindful Materials have been collaborating on question sets and the impact categories and broader alignments around materials and what we're asking, or what some folks are asking manufacturers, as well as what we're asking firms to report to us. And you can see the kind of cadence of the beginnings of this back in 2013 and probably even prior to that. And then the CMF being adopted in 2021, the working group coming online in 2022, and then 2024 was the first time there was full reporting for the previous year, so 2023's data, and then we continue on. So last year we had the second annual reports, and then this year we'll be working on our third. Next. So a couple of resources we have available, and we can also put these in the chat. The reporting guide is a couple years old now, but still does have some basic information that's really helpful. And I'll point out a couple other things as we go along that we've been updating more recently. Next. So this one is, I think, from 4 or 5 years ago, but it's basically an overview of the different impact categories for the Materials Pledge and kind of where things got started, and gives some good context. So if you're kind of new to the pledge and want somewhere to just get more basic information, this is a great resource for that. Next. And talking about more recent data, this was last year's by the numbers report. So we have a by the numbers for the Materials Pledge and for the 2030 commitment. And this is just the cover. Each year it expands a little bit as we kind of refine the data that we want to highlight for signatories and for the larger profession. And we will continue to do that. If there's something out there that you really want to see some data around that is a question we're already asking, you can always let us know, as this is an evolving document. And this will come out for this year. It'll probably come out October, November timeframe around green build. Next. This is an overview of 2024 data, high-level findings. Excuse me. So we had 121 reporting signatories last year. We're hoping that increases this year. We had a great number of reporting projects, 419, and 3.5 million square feet, which is really healthy. We're glad to see this growing at a good clip. 67% of firms had an SAP with some kind of materials guidance included in that. And then human health and climate health are the two most reported product categories. Interesting to see if that will change. Carpeting, acoustical ceiling, and resilient flooring have remained the top three product types. And then just another stat about almost half of firms report that internal goals for their firm were the primary motivation for their strategies. Next. So if that is exciting data to you, please do go to AIAU where you'll get a full deep dive on the content from last year's By the Numbers report, as well as some context on the pledge itself. And we will keep that updated every year. We'll have a new session diving into the data for the previous year. All right, sustainability action plan and materials action plans. So last year was the first time we ever had offered any materials action plan guidance. That is a new document as of last year, which is on the website on the same landing page as the SAP guidance, which we also updated last year. And we are currently doing an AIAU session around MAP creation as well, which will be really helpful. Look for that to come out in a few months. But just wanted to highlight that this guidance does exist and is free to download for everybody. Next. So specifically for the Materials Pledge, want to start diving into the resources and the kind of question sets for each of these levels. Like I said, the firm level is the one that's still required, and then project and product level are still optional. Next. You'll want to be a member of our Materials Pledge peer-to-peer network. This is sort of our central hub for not only where signatories can speak to each other and ask questions, but we heavily use the library for uploading and storing important documentation that's easily downloadable, editable by us. And it's really the place that's kind of, yeah, the central hub. We really strongly encourage anybody who's interested to sign up. You'll also get some news and conference and event announcements as well as part of this. Next. So here's kind of what the library looks like from a high level. Once you click the library tab at the top, you'll be able to see this kind of highlighted resources at the top. And then wanted to call out specifically, there are 2 PDFs and a spreadsheet that are most relevant for this reporting cycle. They're all labeled RY25. And you can see the project level, the firm level, and then brand new for this year, the product level is now a Excel spreadsheet with macros enabled and drop downs. And you will need to download this spreadsheet and fill that out and then upload it back to OpenWater in order to do the product reporting this year. Hoping that will make it a little bit easier. You can just fill out row after row after row. But you will need to access that via the library. Next.
May I chime in, Melanie?
Yeah, sure.
I also
You'd
wanted
have
to
to.
note that there are a number of services out there like Sustainable Minds and Building Ease and Ecomedes. So if those technology platforms are also providing the ability to report and assist you in reporting right now. And I think there's a list of them available on Mindful Materials.
Thanks. Simone, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Simone Fisher. I am with MSR Design in Minneapolis, and I am incoming co-chair this year of the Materials Pledge Working Group.
Awesome. Thank you.
We also have Jay on the call if he wants to use this opportunity.
Oh, why not start? Jay Hindmarsh here with Miller Hall in Seattle today. And I am in my last, I think, cycle of the co-chair for the Pledge Working Group this year. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah. And we'll have a couple other folks who can introduce themselves when we get to the Q&A as well, and they can help answer questions. Just wanted to give little snapshots of what these resources look like in the different sections. Also can show you this via OpenWater. It looks a little bit different, but you can download PDFs of every single question and sort of prep your firm or prep the folks who are going to do reporting and get folks kind of ready for putting in data. So that's what the firm looks like, the firm section. Next. Project section is similar. We do have them broken out in sections this year, and we'll do like 4.1 for sub questions for each section. So hopefully that can help people stay organized. We do have 6 sections for the project question set. Some of them are very short, so do not be intimidated by that. But yeah, we wanted to help with the kind of understanding the context of why we're asking certain kinds of questions. We also have an FAQ document, which is also in the library. I just couldn't show it in the screenshot. This is the most recently updated document. So I would check here first if you have a question for reporting for this year, and then you could go to one of the guides for kind of more general context setting. But this does live in the library along with the other PDFs. Next. So for reporting, just wanted to push that we are going to have our next session on March 11th, all about product reporting. And we will go into detail about how to fill out the spreadsheet, what it looks like. But there is a post on the peer-to-peer network now with context. There's also a little bit of context directly in OpenWater and links between the two sites. So when you're in OpenWater, it'll point you to the correct link to download the spreadsheet, and we'll be getting all into those details on the next session, and we will also record that one as well. All right, so getting started, you want to make sure yours is a signatory, and that's right on our .org website. And you can send that to your friends who might be interested as well. You can always sign on, and we'll help you with education and kind of the background you need. And then at the very bottom, we can see definitely join the peer-to-peer network. And then we hope that you're working on your materials action plan and doing some internal education as well. We do ask about internal education as part of the firm section question set. So the kind of more you're a little bit prepped for that and understand what's going on across the firm, the better. And we can help with education in the future as well. And then hopefully you're setting benchmarks for your own firm, so you're tracking progress within your own firm as well. Next. All right. So that concludes the slide section. Any questions before I do a demo and just show what things look like within open water? Any questions that came up in the chat that anybody noticed?
No questions, but Jay did want to flag that the firm level questionnaire is only about 20 questions, so it's not very intimidating. Trust us.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I can show you what that looks like.
Yeah, sometimes that's helpful just in thinking about the level of effort. At least for me, if you take out, there's a couple general questions right at the top about, your firm name and whatnot, but the meat of the questions, I know it's about 20, so hopefully doable.
So you should be seeing my open water platform here. Move the Zoom thing out of the way. Awesome. So this is what it should look like for everybody. And you'll see the firm level is labeled differently from the project and product level. I can show you looking into edit. This basically is the same for both the firm and the project and product levels. The sections are here up top. So for the firm level, we have 4 sections. For project and product, we have 6. And there are also links to most of the things we just talked about here as well. These go straight to your Zoom registration. You can sign up for the next session. So yes, some basic information here. This is kind of the basic open water, what it looks like. We hope you do agree to share your information with us. So there's some open fields where you can write in as much as you want. And then there are some multiple selects and then single selects. We tried to call that out in every single section, see where you can select more than one. They're also a slightly different kind of question when I was setting it up in open water. And then did also want to call out, I can click on this in a second. There is a manage collaborators function here as well. If you want to invite some other people in your firm to input some data as well. So here's the firm knowledge. This is sort of what I was talking about in terms of whether you're doing education across your firm. Also noting that every question with a little red asterisk is required. And then we get a little bit into the impact categories, asking about your firm's collective knowledge on each impact category. We do track these trends and we do use them in the by the numbers report as well. And then action implementation. If you have a materials action plan, great. We would love to see them. So you can upload a file straight from here, or you can put in a URL if that's easier for you. And we ask a couple questions, and we do track this. We put it in the report as well. And then getting a little bit deeper into the details of how your firm is implementing the CMF, if you are. And some of these have follow-up questions, which will pop open. You can select other. Here are some of the platforms. We're starting to track what platforms folks are using, who has the primary responsibility for material selection. Again, some of these have little other write-ins. And then anything we did not capture in these question sets, you can do that and write in a little narrative. And then the final question is about whether you're going to move to project level data. Any thoughts from co-chairs? Anything I missed?
No, but there's two good questions in the chat.
Okay.
One from David. I'm just gonna
Hey, David.
elevate that about access, maybe for reference or for content from previous year submissions.
Yeah, so if you email the materials inbox, we can get you that data, and Andrew will send you your data from previous years for sure. I can also send you a PDF if you want to see it that way, but yeah, we can get you that information.
There's just a follow-on question on requirements. Melanie, one was that which of the reporting is required and firm level is required, while project and product are optional. Oh, there you go. Simone answered already. Does this change based on how many years you're a signatory? No, this does not currently depend on how many years you're a signatory. Year to year, the only for now required reporting is firm level.
Yeah, so it may change in the future. We would love at least one project to be reported. I think where the complication is if you're a small firm and you don't have a project in CDs, you might not have anything to submit. So we'd have to think about how we logistically do that in terms of not wanting to, or having different levels, like having firm and project, or just firm if you don't have a project and calling that out. Let me just click on the Manage Collaborators button since I'm here. So here's where you can add a collaborator. And it's basically just first, last name, and email. Noting here, I love that Open Water does this, only the primary collaborator will be allowed to submit. So anybody who's added on will most likely not see that submit button when you get to the end. So let me just go back and I'll do a quick project overview. This does have more sections. So there are 6 sections for project and then the product reporting section. I'm just going to whip through some of these. Some of these I've started to fill out. So we're asking about other signatory programs, 2030 commitment, project type, size, basic information, use type. This is matched to 2030 as well. Sustainability goals and drivers for the project. Really trying to get at some of these narratives about how you are specifying and either reducing or selecting different kinds of materials, building certifications. Yeah, I promise some of these are short. And product selection strategies and implementation. Asking about the impact categories. Anything else I want to call out? I think this is one of the longest sections. Asking about whole building life cycle analysis. This is only if you select yes. You select no, that all disappears. But we do want to know about some embodied carbon trends and tracking. Project 5, team process. This one's pretty short. How do you manage your information for projects? And then outcomes and learning is really just one question. And then the product, so the product and project are still together, but noting that the product is a Excel workbook now with macros enabled. We have instructions, and then if you want to get over to the product spreadsheet, there's a link right there.
Can I pause for a sec and
Yeah.
just, there was a question about if we can look at previous submissions to compare and maybe copy earlier answers. And generally, that previous answers can be provided. So that's a thing you email. But I think there's a difference. You mentioned it in passing. I want to highlight between 2030 reporting and materials pledge reporting. 2030 reporting, it's all projects that were in a design phase during the calendar year. So we all know from 2030 reporting that things get reported maybe for 3 or 4 years in a row while they're cycling through design. In this case, in materials pledge, we are asking people to report every project one time period. So, and that's during CDs when the materials have been selected. So it's only projects in CDs, which is going to be a smaller set across your firm, and then only once. So even if CDs spanned across 2 years, you don't have to report it again. So that's a nuanced difference between reporting here that will hopefully help people understand that it's a narrower set. And then there are a couple different ways that you can do the product reporting for those projects. And that's maybe what you're about to dive into.
I might, not to keep tagging on there, but also I think a little bit of a shift from 2030 just in terms of project types that we can include for materials pledge reporting. So maybe projects that might be, TI, things that maybe not necessarily a great fit for 2030 reporting. If we have materials and we're tracking them and you're making decisions about materials as a design firm, we're certainly welcome to report on those.
We got some follow-ups to those points in the chat. Yeah, are we just reporting a single project this year? We reported 17 projects. This is more case by case. Reported 17 projects last year, and when I took a look in open water, I didn't understand how more than one project was submitted this year. Megan, can you clarify that? Sorry. If you can get off mute. If not.
I gave you my face and then I didn't come off mute.
Thanks.
Okay, so when I got into the project level reporting, so I only saw like one place to enter that in open water, and it appeared all the questions applied to one single project. So do we like create more of those for every project we wanted? I just didn't like, for me, it was like I didn't understand how I reported more than one project.
Yeah, you can report with multiple kind of open water forms for projects.
Okay, so there's an open water form for every project that
Yep.
we want to submit. And then the Excel spreadsheet that we attach with the products, we would attach one of those to each project.
I believe we're asking for all products to be in one single spreadsheet for an entire firm, because at the beginning of each row, you tag which product it's for or project it's for.
Okay, so we would do, let's say we decide to report 15 projects this year, just for like a number. So we would have 15 open water project submissions, and then we would just pick one
of them,
to upload the spreadsheet of products to. Okay.
Yeah, you'll
Perfect.
see
All right,
in
that's
those.
where I got all sorts of tangled up and confused when I was trying to like figure this out the other day. Thank you.
Yeah, you add kind of like demographic information in the product spreadsheet. So you add project name, et cetera, et cetera. So there's some kind of initial data you add there.
So if the product does get a little too confusing going back and forth with the open water, you might be able to just send us an email too. I mean, I don't want to make it too confusing for folks.
What about multi-phase or multi-building campus type projects in terms of reporting?
So, I mean, I think you'd want to stay with the CD set rule regardless. So whichever building was ready to be reported.
I would say basically, like if you had 3 buildings and the CD sets were phased over 3 years, but they're using the same palette of materials, then you are lucky. You get to copy those rows and report them 3 times.
Great. You mentioned using tech collaborators to gather product information. Can those exports be used for product level reporting, or do we still need to transfer that information into the AI provided Excel spreadsheet?
Yeah, so the great news is that a number of those tech providers, in their various ways, are able to give you essentially a completed AIA spreadsheet for you to upload. That's the deal that they offer, and you have to work through them to do that.
Can I tack
What?
on to that? Just to say that we're hoping if you're doing a material category, you're reporting all the products in that category. So if you have products in that category that aren't in that tech platform, if you could add them before you submit. Example, you have 2 really good resilient flooring products, but then you had another one that isn't even in that platform because it's not as good, but you need to use it. We want you to report everything in the category, so please add those things in.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Christy, and maybe we at a higher level, it's just worth reinforcing, like, this snapshot that we take every year of the reporting data, both at firm, project, and product level, is really only as good as the data we put in it. So I think we've talked in years past about helping, firms understand how you choose which projects to report on and or products. So I think firms can take their own approach to that. We have how we approach it here at my firm. But maybe think about, it shouldn't just be the best project and the best products. If we're trying to learn the most about how the design community is, moving forward as a whole. So I think maybe just to offer that as a seed on top of what Christy's talking about in terms of which products and projects you're thinking about submitting. And maybe also like for you as a firm in terms of this effort, where do you see potential return on investment, right? If you have maybe multiple teams that you can get to help with reporting and then draw some conclusions about that effort for you internally, I think that's super exciting and an opportunity for folks.
I think one of these questions got split in 2. What happens if a project's products are reported and then a spec is revised due to VE or other? Can it be resubmitted? Thoughts on that, Simona J?
Which question was that?
If a product is VE'd, can it be resubmitted?
Simona, I think they're getting at things that happen during construction or bidding. And I think the answer is we're trying to capture the design. So, what you have in your drawings at the end of CDs is really what we're trying to capture and what our industry as a profession is at least attempting to accomplish.
Yeah. That's a great.
Yeah, at this time, we're not trying to capture what actually happened, which would also be interesting information, right?
I just want to say, I think we all totally agree that we would love to capture what actually happened. And that is ultimately the goal of the Materials Pledge, to see it all the way through. But at this time, as Christy said, it's design. So I wouldn't change your reporting based on a modification Yeah, I mean, officially.
I mean, unless it's telling some specific story that you would like to share, but yeah, probably.
Yeah. You don't have to, I think is what we're saying.
For sure, yeah. I'm just going to ask this. Speaking of projects in the CD phase, should we report just the products that were in CD in 2025? So yes, we're looking at 2025 data. Yeah.
And then there's a more specific question below about must the project issue its CD set within the reporting year to be included? I think that's kind of what we're saying, but if you did all of the work, you did 99% of the work, and then the drawings were issued on January 3rd of the next year, you could go ahead and include that in your 2025 reporting year.
Yeah.
You just wouldn't include it again when you do 2026 reporting. You would not.
Do you want to jump into, this is a product question, but we have the time to answer it. Column F asks for reporting approach taken. Should this approach be consistent through each product category and project and all projects submitted, or can this vary within project and between projects?
Would you be able to share the spreadsheet on screen?
So I don't really want to get into products that deeply, but I can.
Okay.
Because we're going to do a whole session on products. But let me share the link again.
I think generally the answer, though, is that you do not have to be consistent. I really hope I'm not saying that wrong, but I think that's where we all landed, that it's not required.
It's
Right, I mean,
actually an interesting data collection question. I
It
don't,
is.
yeah. And maybe, Andrew, we can look at that behind the curtain and issue a kind of some formal direction on that.
Yeah.
We can also keep the FAQ document updated if there's new stuff we want to put in there.
Yeah.
I think it would be okay, though, because when you go through, when AIA goes through and takes the data, reads the data, you'll be able to sort answers into which method they use to report, and then we'll lump that data into like general trends around flooring versus specific product data on a specific flooring type. So I don't see an issue, but we might need to fully confirm that.
Yeah, I think we left it as an option there because we weren't sure which way we would prefer it either, and we wanted to see both ways to collect the data. And so I think if a firm wants to report it both ways, that's totally fine because we can sort it differently, and maybe there's different trends on different projects with how the different data is collected.
Thanks, Melanie. I don't know, Melanie, if you also want to introduce yourself. We didn't have Christy or any of our working group members introduce. You can go ahead.
Yes, Christy, Melanie, please introduce yourselves.
Amy's also here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Melanie Silver. I work at Payette as a building scientist, and I'm one of the working group members.
I am Christy Ennis. I'm the Director of Sustainable Design at Boulder Associates, and I'm also a working group member.
And hi, everyone. I'm Amy Running. I'm a senior interior designer with Bora Architects in Portland, Oregon, and I'm also a working group member.
Thanks all.
Yes, we will add the registration to the peer-to-peer network. It did come out in a email newsletter that hopefully everybody got. We tried to hit all the signatories, but if you're not a signatory, it may not have come through. The other general point I wanted to make is please, as much as possible, try to keep your materials point person up to date with AIA, and we'll be better about sending you reminders throughout the year because we know people change firms or leave or whatever's the case. But please do email the materials address if you have new point person information. Any other questions? Anybody want to unmute or raise your hand?
I was just going to offer another piece of information for folks that if they are finding either the firm or the project level questions aren't necessarily capturing, the hard work or their material story for their project or things that they're doing, please find a way to share that with us. We'd love to hear it. This is an evolution, work in progress. We've put a lot of time and effort into this, but by no means believe it to be final and encompassing all aspects of material success. So yeah, there's ways to contact us through email, or I think even in some of the questions in each of those groups of buckets, if you feel like you've got things to share that would improve the process for everyone. Would love to hear that.
Yeah, we have some sort of thought starters within the question sets to capture what might be missing. And also we're currently working on a whole new materials series for AIAU. So if you're interested in participating in that, let us know. But just know that that will be coming and it'll be fresh and brand new and something to share with your firms when that comes out in the spring. And a lot of folks here are participating in that, which is great.
Yep, no other questions in the chat.
That's hard to believe, but please do join us for the next session. And as we said, we will have an open question session closer to the reporting deadline in April. So plenty of times. If you think up something in the meantime, let us know.
I think we have just a question about access. Maha, if you're a non-member using the sign up link, which one was that for? The Zoom link should be, the registration should be available to anyone, non-members included. If you're trying to access our community hub, then that would be an issue. Oh yeah, peer-to-peer network.
I might have put the wrong one in the chat. Hold on one sec. I'll just repost that.
Peer-to-peer, you can register without being a member.
Yes, you can register without being a member, and you should be able to see this how to sign up link, even if you're not a member of either the AIA or the Community Hub. But if that's not true, let me know. I thought it should be public.
And we got a question earlier about SAP map for firm level reporting, just kind of what's required in that particular area, the questions on the firm level reporting side.
What's required in the guide and MAP itself, or what we're asking questions about?
What we're asking questions about.
Yeah, let me go back to that. Yeah, I can share my screen again briefly. So here is what that looks like. It's firm section 4, action and implementation. Asks you which best describes your firm. You have a sustainability action plan with materials pledge goals included. or just general materials, or you have an SAP that does not yet have materials, you have an SAP but is not published, or you do not. And then entry criteria, materials entry criteria in your firm, whether you do or do not. And then you can upload. So that's basically that area. And then we get further into the CMF. Pretty basic overview information. And then I will just show you quickly what the SAP page looks like. SAP guide is here, the MAP guide is here, and these are both updated as of last year. In public.
Just had a follow-up question about completing guests. You'd use the kind of separate open water form for each project. So you'd submit separately.
And yes, correct on the MAP SAP questions. All
Yes,
right.
so we do have to report each project separately. And how do you create a duplicate project in open water? Or not a duplicate, but open a new one.
So you should be able to do that with the same link that you set up your initial one with. So you should have gotten an email with a open water link for firm and then for project. You should just be able, once you submit, to click again on that same link. And email us if something's not working correctly. We've had a few emails about access via our single sign-on, and we've had to delete some people and re-add them. So just let us know if there's issues with access. Downloadable firm info and project info form. Yeah, so those are the two PDFs in the library section of the materials peer-to-peer network.
Project. Sorry, just post the two PDF documents in the chat for project and firm. If you just want to track that information external and then plug it all into OpenMore at the same time. Great. I think that's it.
Great. Thank you all for your time. As mentioned, this will be up on our YouTube if you missed something or want to go back and re-listen to a certain part of it. And yeah, join the peer-to-peer network, email us at materials@aia.org. Appreciate
Thanks,
you
everyone.
taking the hour with us. And thanks to our working group members for joining as well. Appreciate it. Have a great day, everyone.